My first time in Korea blockchain. I've been to Korea. I had my bachelor party here in 1992, believe it or not, in Itaewon. That was a long time ago. But first time I've come with a crypto hat on, and I love the enthusiasm. People are friendly. I almost feel like a celebrity over here. No one in the U.S. Likes me as much as they do in Korea. I've been lucky to start. I've had lots of luck in my life. I was born into a big family, and big families help. They help you in taking risk. Mm-hmm. You know, if you screw up in life, when you fall down, if you've got 7 brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts and cousins, they catch you. And your friends might think you're a failure or a jerk, but your family never thinks you're a failure or a jerk. They just think you made a mistake. And so they push you back up. And so I think I've been lucky to have a big family. I was lucky to I went to a public high school. My parents weren't wealthy, but we went to a great public high school. That's lucky. You could have gone to a shitty school, you never get the same breaks. I went to Princeton. It's an unbelievable privilege to go to Princeton. It's like just and what it does is, you go to school with these rich kids and these kids that are so smart, and you realize, they go to the same toilet you do. And so it's an amazing mind shift of, I'm not worse or different, I'm just as capable, or have just as many opportunities. And so lots of luck along the way. Crypto was interesting because I think in some ways, being a macro investor was the perfect training to be a crypto investor. This was macro on steroids. So I used to almost feel guilty last year when I was selling things into the frenzies and then buying them. I was like, all these newbies, they haven't gone through 25 years of battle scars of, what market tops look like. And so when I said, hey, Bitcoin's going to consolidate, it's because I looked at the chart and said, with 100% certainty it's consolidate. I literally sold almost all my crypto at that point because it was obvious that it was no longer going to go higher. And even that, the courage to sell only comes from having done it before. Right? If it's your first time, well, I could have sold at 100, now I would look like a fool. I could have sold at 5 and I would look like a fool. And so people were scared to sell. That's not that I have some mystical brain. That's all lucky enough that all that training, showed up. I thought I was going to politics, and I was down in DC, and I was trying to get jobs, and they just didn't pay enough that I could even pay back the debt I owed to my college roommate. And I met a guy who was an assistant secretary of the Army, famous guy. My dad had been in the Army, so this guy, my dad knew this guy. He'd been a Princeton wrestler, and he said, go to Wall Street and make some money and come back when you have something to offer. And I thought that sounded like good advice. So I had a lot of friends on Wall Street, so I went to Wall Street. I got a job at Goldman Sachs. I was a money market salesman. It was like the lowest level job you could get, but I kind of worked my way up and really had my big break when I came to Asia. And ironically, I had my big break because Asia blew up. Hong Kong blew up, Korea blew up. I made lots of money in Korea in 1998 being short, and the yuan really had a hard time. And so I became a big investor here, both at Goldman and then at Fortress in my hedge fund. I don't have enough data points to make a definitive idea. It feels similar to Tokyo that the trading piece is a more important piece at this point than the ecosystem of building new companies. But that seems to be starting. I said I was in Hashed's office yesterday, and they incubating, and they've got all kinds of young energy going on there. And so I think that's an important part. That's where the jobs come from in the long run. That's where the innovation comes from, and it's an important part for Korea to grow. But I think from a trader's perspective, this is here in Tokyo, kind of crypto mecca. I was talking about decentralization versus, pure decentralization, proof of work, proof of stake. There's this spectrum of how decentralized something has to be for us to feel secure. Safety, security versus convenience and speed. And there's a whole spectrum of projects. I don't know what the market's going to vote on. Like what we're going to, or we're going to have some projects built on less secure systems and some built on more secure systems. How those systems actually develop themselves, right? These are living, breathing governments. And so what's been interesting to watch EOS is, yeah, they made some mistakes in the Constitution and they're changing it. And so we'll see what they end up coming up with that gets market buy-in. And so it might be that people say, you know what, it's not completely decentralized, but it, the EOS delegated proof of stake, it might be a winner. People might say that's good enough, and it's fast as can be, and it's convenient. Or they might say, I don't really trust it, and I need something more. So that's the bulletproof gas analogy. Is it 14 inches or 20 inches? And none of us are smart enough to know yet. We're going to know in 3-4 years. That it's owned by the youth. Like this is a young man's. It's kind of their chapter. I sometimes feel like I was trying to stay young, right? I lost my hair, I get fat. I'm like, okay, how do you stay young? You hang out with young people. This is a millennial revolution in lots of ways, and them taking ownership, right? That we've never had young people trading like they're all learning how to trade, in colleges around the world. And I think that's the most optimistic piece, that they're not just going to give this up, that this is something that they think they can own. They think they can make their difference in the world. They think they can get wealthy on. And so it's the youth part that really is, I think, the most optimistic side. It's just growing pains, right? You got to get rid of, and there's some painful transition of some of the guys that really help create the space just don't fly in an institutional world. And there's going to be this painful transition of blockchain's not going to be as sexy as it was last year, or you're not going to get the institutions in. The way it's sold, the way it's regulated. Governments aren't going to allow this rogue state to exist outside of their borders, and so you're going to have to work within the system. I don't think money per se goes away from the developed world, right? We're going to still use the euro and the dollar. That doesn't invalidate this revolution one iota. Governments don't care if Facebook gets decentralized or if Uber gets, put out of business by a decentralized version. Matter of fact, they like that type stuff. And so there's so many ways that the crypto revolution can impact the way we live, that even if they keep a tight look on, quote, money. The definition of money is going to change. We're going to exchange value in different ways. I hope we laugh with a warm grin at, just the culture, the noobs and hodls and all the bro culture around the trading space of it on, and that seems like a quaint but important part of the birth of this stuff. Listen, the reason to do this, I talked about privacy, I talked about efficiency, I talked about fairness, cutting out the middleman, connecting the artist and the audience without them losing 95% of the value. That's what I hope we end up seeing, a very different future. But I think we'll look back on this and we'll really chuckle at the Lambos and all the jargon that's part of the space.